Hi, I'm Greg Lott, Assistant Director of Athletics and Assistant Professor here at Denison. So I have this vivid memory of being a young freshman at Dickinson College, actually, and I was sitting out in this audience of my peers, and gosh, there were a whole bunch of different administrators that came up and spoke and had various messages, and frankly, I probably wasn't paying attention all that much because I really don't remember much of what anyone had to say. Probably busy thinking about what I was going to be doing that night and getting to know my new peers. But there was one thing that stuck out. I was sitting there, and our then Dean of Students, Joyce Bylander, stepped up to the podium and said, "It is my genuine hope that during your 4 years, you learn just as much outside of the classroom as you do in it." And I remember I sat up in my seat and I thought, whoa, cool. Like, my sport gets to be part of my education. And it was. I had this transformative experience, that really just changed the trajectory of my life because of my sport. And so for that reason, one of my favorite times of the year is when I get to sit down with some upperclassmen and really talk about the impact of their sport experience. So I have three special individuals with me today that you can see behind me. In fact, two of which I had as students, their first semester freshmen in class. So we have with us Carrie Lawler, who's a goalie on our NCAC championship field hockey team, who, fun fact, in 2017 actually led the entire nation in her goals against average. We have Zaya Beal, who was all NCAC performer for our basketball team and happens to be the top returning scorer on the squad. And we have Sarah. In fact, Sarah, I'm going to let you say your own last name because, yeah, there's no way I'm getting that right. Sarah Rajevich, who's a 4-year member of the cross-country program here, happens to be president of the Denison Biological Society, and is on the NCAC honor roll for her academic achievements as well. So welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I asked all of you to think about a story, that maybe represents something very specific that you learned through your sport experience. So Carrie, let's start with you.
Okay, so when I was thinking about this question, the first thing that kind of came to my mind was how almost scared I was as a freshman. Like, I felt coming in as a freshman that I had this unbearable pressure to prove myself or perform at my best ability 100% of the time. And so I think something that I really worked on and learned throughout my program is that you need to be comfortable with the failures and with your mistakes, and how you're practicing doesn't always determine who you are as a player. And I think freshman year, everyone's just so caught up on making your name for yourself, proving yourself to your coach and your upperclassmen. But I was in a team environment where I had players trying things they've never done before, and when they failed, they would laugh it off, try again. And I think as a goalkeeper too, that was harder for me to accept because you're the last person in the line. If the ball goes in, you're like, oh, that was my fault. But I think something of importance to remember as a freshman and in all sports is it's okay to fail. It's okay not to perform perfectly every single second of every single practice or game. And I think that being on the field hockey team and being in an environment where I've been able to have an opportunity to accept my failures and also accept my successes, I think that's just been an awesome experience that I've been able to translate into my schoolwork as well.
Thanks. Now, Carrie, if you wouldn't mind, is there any failure in particular that jumps out where you're like, okay, I got to sit with this, I got to be okay with this?
Well, I think one that I kept going back onto was freshman year when we were in the tournament. We were at W&L, and it was we were in overtime. And the last goal that went in was one that probably I thought about for the next week after, blaming myself for it, oh, if I had done this, maybe it would have been different. If I had said this, maybe it would have been different. And it was at the end of the day, it wasn't all on me. It wasn't all on one person. It was on the team and just the outcomes of the game. And I think having that experience and being I don't want to have to put myself in that kind of feeling again of being this is all on me. I think that led me to kind of accept those mistakes or times where I didn't think that I performed as well as I could have.
Thanks. So Zaya, what about you? What kind of stories do you have for us?
When I kind of thought about this question, I thought about the difference between my 4 years of high school experience and the years that I've been here and the culture of, surrounding the team. And I kind of thought about trust, and I think that putting a trust in the coaches and also specifically the team is a huge kind of part of the difference of my high school experience and now. When I was in high school, I was not in a very good environment, like team-wise. It was kind of a lot of toxic energy, and when I mean like toxic energy, the teammates weren't really trying to be a part of like a team, and I felt like the coaches kind of picked their favorites, and if you weren't a part of the favorites, then you didn't really succeed the way that you wanted to. And I remember there was a time my freshman year where I kind of just hit rock bottom, and my coach kind of saw that I wasn't in the state that I was in the beginning of the year. And so she kind of pulled me in and was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh, like nothing's going on." And she was like, "Well, that's not what I see." And I kind of had to let my guard down. Yeah, so coming into freshman year of college, I really had my guard up just because of what I was conditioned to the 4 years of high school. And when she called me in to have the meeting, I was hesitant to really let her know how I was feeling and everything that was going on, just because I, at the time, was having a hard time trying to juggle my schoolwork and also trying to juggle basketball at the same time. And I also was homesick, so that had a huge contribution to my feelings at the time. And so she kind of just let me know that she was always there for me. Well, she's there for me whenever I need it, and her door is always open whenever I am in Mitchell. She's always like, "You can come by, say hi." And we kind of made this like pact to meet once a week just to kind of see like how I was doing, and I really appreciated that just because I didn't experience that in high school, which was totally different. And after I had my meeting with my coach, a few of the teammates reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to have lunch with them, which I thought was really nice. And so we went out to Chipotle, and we kind of just got to know each other more on a personal level, which I thought was really super, super nice, just because I was like, this is a totally different experience than high school. And I really learned to appreciate my teammates a lot more, and just the culture that Denison women's basketball have and that we've had in the years that I've had and will probably have in the years when I'm gone is just amazing. We have a really great culture that I am very grateful for, just because I didn't have that in high school. And I really just appreciate everything that my teammates do for me, and especially the coaches.
Thanks, and we'll follow up here in a little bit as far as how you're trying to continue to push that culture forward. So Sarah, can you tell me a little bit about something specific that you've learned through your sport experience?
Yeah, I think that my story kind of draws parallels to what Carrie and Zaya both said. I came in freshman year so excited to run. That's the main reason I went to Denison, because I wanted to compete competitively on a collegiate team. And I came in and I was doing well during preseason, first couple meets, really succeeding, feeling great about it. And then as academic work and other outside stuff started to build up, I saw my performance decrease, and I just wasn't doing as well as I thought. And I really beat myself up about it. I was hard on myself, telling myself that it was my fault and that if I just worked harder, it would get better. And I feel like that wasn't the case. Like, I was struggling with anemia, I was having low iron, didn't know it, and I was just stuck in a rut where I didn't want to admit that I needed help, and I didn't want to be vulnerable to my teammates because I had just met them. I was a freshman, and I wanted to like put on a hard face and just get through it. And I think it was when my coach pulled me aside, like what Zaya said, and he said, "There's something else going on that you need to fix." And I was like, yeah, you're right. So once we got like medical tests done and figured out the issue, it just took me a long time to actually get back to where I was when I started. And that whole process was really difficult because I couldn't see the end and I couldn't see where I was gonna go. I could only see where I was, and I was comparing myself from where I was in the past. And this took a couple years, and looking back, I think some people would say, oh, she wasted 2 years of college getting back to where she was
in high school, but I look at it solely as a growth period and as a time that I really built upon myself and found who I was. And I think that it was through those failures and through those moments of, oh, I can't do this, that made me stronger in my academics and sport. And I just kind of realized that I can reach my fullest potential and I can't compare myself to where I was in the past. And I learned to open up to my teammates and not look at myself through such a harsh lens. Rather, I need to be more positive and build upon where I was. And I think that that just really had a lasting impact on me, and that it just made me grow as a person and as a runner. And my success now is attributed to that, and I think that other people also have seen that and been motivated by it. So I just think that freshman year was really hard because of those aspects, but they were so worth it, and I'm honestly glad that I struggled through that, because I wouldn't be as strong as I am today.
Absolutely, struggles provide a great opportunity to learn and grow. So, I mean, you all talked about a lot of different things here as far as specific, ways in which you developed and matured. We heard a little bit about, courage and dealing with failure and trying to grow from failure. We heard about being vulnerable and maybe being able to step back and look at the process, kind of big picture thinking and trying to grow through that process. Can any of you, and maybe Sarah, you already started to touch on this a little bit when you mentioned your studies as well, but could any of you think of maybe how these things have been transferable outside of your sport? Maybe something specific to what you just discussed, within your social life or within your academics, or as you, engage with career preparation or something along those lines.
Can we touch on someone else's point?
Sure.
Okay. So I think going off of what Zaya and Sarah both said, being vulnerable with your teammates and with your coaches, I think is really, really important. And I think right now, especially during the pandemic, it's been crucial to have all your teachers reach out and be like, hey, how are you? Even PJ, our coach, she's every day before practice, she makes an effort to say, how is everyone, what's going on? And I think just that willingness to be open and there for other people, especially now, to not only be vulnerable, but to open yourself up to be vulnerable to others, especially your teammates, I think is something that's really important now. And I can see that relate, because I've had coaches be I've opened up to PJ and other teammates on my team, and I think because of that, I've been able to do the same thing to others. And then touching on my last point about courage to failure, I mean, everyone, and I think every team has that team GPA, what you need to have to play and everything. And I think just to be able to take some of that pressure off to do every assignment or paper perfect really helps, because it's, at the end of the day, it's, if you get a bad grade on a test, it's one test out of 4 years. It's not going to make or break your entire performance. And I think just academically being okay, I might have messed this one up, but it's not going to affect my entire situation. I think it's just opening yourself to be comfortable with not being a perfectionist. And I think for me in high school, I always tried to do everything perfect and be as smart as I could or whatever. But I think now, so many of the skills that I've learned from my coaches and from my peers and my teammates have just transferred both on and off the field here.
I agree with that, and just to tie it into the academic idea, but one thing I want to say is being vulnerable outside of the classroom and inside the classroom. So I definitely opened up in my sport to when to ask for help, but I learned to do that in my academics too. If I was struggling in my physics class, for example, I would go to tutoring hours. That wasn't seen as oh, you have to go to tutoring hours because you're not smart enough, but it was oh, you're trying to get better and you're trying to improve yourself. And I think that that was really difficult for me, especially from where I came from in high school, where it was a very cutthroat, competitive environment, where it was we're only focusing on grades, that's all that matters. And here at Denison, I think it's so awesome that
people and your peers want to help you succeed in the classroom, not just to get a good grade, but to actually further your learning. And I think that having great discussions in class, I remember my freshman year, I was so afraid to speak in my class with upperclassmen. Like, I did not want to get anything wrong, so I sat in the back, I took my notes, and I left. And then I wondered why I got a bad participation grade. Well, it's because I didn't say anything. But I think that really made me realize that you have to take risks inside the classroom and just like be okay with being wrong. And I feel like the people who are wrong a lot are the people who are learning the most.
Absolutely. So I really remember being a freshman and just watching the upperclassmen on my team, and really I think I saw the good and the bad and the ugly, things I really wanted to emulate, and things was like, whoa, you know, not for me. You know, so maybe Zaya, could you get us started with some of the things that you witnessed as a freshman out of the juniors and seniors on your program, and maybe how they influenced you?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I was actually in the same experience as the freshmen are on the basketball team now. My freshman year, we only had one senior, and she was pretty introverted. She didn't like to talk to a lot of people, and she didn't really lead the team like as a speaking leadership, but she kind of led the team on the court, which I kind of saw a lot of inspiration from. And we had 3 juniors on the team, and then we had 11 sophomores on the team when I was a freshman. So I had a lot of range of seeing different types of leadership. And with the juniors on the team, all 3 of them had their own very, very different personalities, and they all kind of stepped into their leadership role. Either what Brittany, when I was freshman, her name was Brittany, they led by speaking basically. And I kind of took that into consideration in my freshman year, and especially like leading up to now. And I just think that it's really important to kind of see the differentiation of the different levels of the class years, and really think about your future as well, and kind of putting yourself in their shoes, and kind of see what you want to become when you're that age, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sarah, what kind of things did you witness as a freshman, first year here on the Hill?
I really loved how inclusive the team was and how they always invited us to anything that they were doing. It wasn't like, oh, we're only friends when we're on the track, or we're only friends when we're on the cross-country course. It's like, oh, well, we're friends on campus, and if you need help with this, I can help you, or if you want to go here, like, I'll drive you. So I thought that that was really nice, and it made it feel like a family and something that made me feel supported, and I could reach out to them, and I definitely want the freshmen this year to feel the same way. I think they also modeled that, like, work hard, play hard. Like, we're gonna work as hard as we can during practice, and I really value that some of my favorite mentors always did the little things. They stayed like the extra 15 minutes after practice to roll out. They took the time to stretch, or they wanted to go that extra like 0.02 because we haven't reached 8 miles yet. So I think that those things are things that I really look up to, and I realized that it was the people who did those little things that were really seeing the biggest gains.
How about you, Carrie?
So mine's kind of more on the bad side, I'd say. But so my freshman year, we had maybe 6 or 7 seniors, I can't remember, but they really like to make it seem that there was like a power hierarchy on our team. So like if you were a freshman, you're a freshman and you know it. And it's like if you're a senior, don't disrespect, don't like talk back to them. Like it's their way or the highway. And I think like that took everyone by surprise. So like my freshman class, like we were so scared to like not set up the field in time or not have everything that we needed for the bus, because we were simply just intimidated by how our seniors were going to react to whatever we were doing. And so that kind of like gave our class this weird feeling of like we feel as if our only purpose here is as freshmen and we have no say, we can't open our mouths, we can't express how we're really feeling. And so personally, like after they graduated, so my sophomore year, we made like a complete 180 to that, and like our seniors that year were so different, and I think it's just everyone kind of saw the negative energy that it really brought upon our team, having that power hierarchy, because it left so many people feeling as if like they could not say or express anything, even if it was a really valid point. And so, I mean, they all were really inclusive, like you were saying about how like we would go see them on campus, they would say hi, they would do whatever, but there was some where when we were on the field and times where we were off the field, they were seniors and we weren't allowed to question that almost.
So how does that experience really influence you as you, I mean, you get ready to graduate here, it's going to happen before you realize it. Just maybe think about how that's impacted you post Denison.
Well, I think like thinking about this, like we've talked on our team a lot about how like the chemistry and the energy has changed within our team, and I think it's really important, like for my own growth, is that I've become more, I know what our team like wants out of the players and what they like, almost what our team like philosophy or goals are for the year. Like we've done a really good job at like creating those and developing those, and I think that being a part of like creating and expressing and participating in that, I think like that's something that's going to be carried on into my adulthood, because I know how to treat someone, because I think when you go into a new position anywhere you are, like of course you're going to be afraid and like you have the hierarchies and you have everything else, but I think it's just really important to know that everyone does have a say, their opinions are always valid, and I think that's something that's just going to follow me throughout, because I hated feeling that whatever I said was invalid.
Gotcha. So all of you obviously, you know, were really paying attention to what your upperclassmen were doing when you were freshmen. Sarah, what specifically are you trying to do now to, you know, model something, you know, to try to teach the newbies that are part of your team now?
So we have a really young team. There was times on my team when there was like 6 or 5 people, because just people weren't staying on the team. But I think that one thing that really caused our team to not do well was when we focused on the negatives. It was when we came to practice and we were like, we don't want to run. We don't want to run this 9-mile workout and feel exhausted like we've just had class. So I try to take like those negative statements and really turn them into a positive, like, oh, well, we only have like 3 more reps to go. Like, it'll be okay. So I think that just like, right now it's really hard because of COVID, because we don't know what we're working towards. We're doing all these workouts and yet we only have like 1 virtual meet. So I think it's finding those little things that we can really set as goals, and me trying to just like push everyone in ways that are positive and not focusing on the negatives. There was definitely times where I came to practice and I was like, I don't want to run. I just finished like a 3-hour test. I'm so exhausted. I have so much homework. And the last thing I want to do is go run. And I think that those are the days that I remember the most, because I still did it and I still went out there and I ran and I felt so good about myself after. And I want the freshmen to feel as though during those hard days we're there for them, but they're going to get through it and we're going to be positive and make the best of it.
Great, thanks. So Zaya, what specifically do you want the freshmen on your team to see you doing, to see in your example?
So last year we had 10 seniors, and it was a lot of separation between the classes, and I just kind of want to be that senior, and just because I'm the only senior, I want to be I kind of want to put myself in a position to where everyone is like collectively together as a team. I don't want anyone to feel any type of separation from any of the groups, and that's kind of what happened last year. I don't want to call like anybody out, but the seniors last year really separated themselves from the classes. And when I was a junior, I kind of saw that in myself, and I had a lot of different people come up to me and kind of express their feelings about it. And so I definitely made sure that this year I wanted to avoid that completely. And I wanted to, during the summertime when all of the incoming freshmen committed, I reached out to them individually and kind of introduced myself and to let them know that I'm there for them, and here's my number, my Snapchat, my TikTok, basically anything that they can kind of like get to know me a little bit better. And last year I kind of already gained a more deep relationship with the freshmen at that time. And so I kind of just want the freshmen to know that we are a team and there's no need for anyone to feel left out. And that's kind of what Denison women's basketball is all about, is that we just have an amazing chemistry together. And I just really want the freshmen to know that any of the women on the team are there for them. And I think that that's really important.
Thank you. Carrie, what are you trying to show with your example?
Well, mine kind of goes along with both of your guys' answers as well, and we have talked a lot about being and having a really good culture on our team. So even like we talk a lot about how we don't all have to be best friends. We don't all have to like spend every waking second together. But one of the things that we do emphasize on our team is that if you need something, like if you text in the group chat, if you say like, hey, can someone please take me there? Like I need this. Like because of the environment that we create with each other, like we care so much about everyone that it's that environment where if you needed something, you would drop everything at an instance to help someone. And I think like I've really tried to show that, because like checking in with people and being like, hey, how are you today? Like, is everything good? Like just like constantly asking and like being aware of how people are feeling. And then another thing is just the attitude that you have coming to practice, because like Sarah was saying, like it's so hard some days to like go to practice and be like, we're gonna do like a conditioning practice, and you're like, why? Like what are we going towards? Like there's so many times where we're like, where at least I've thought about like, what are we working for right now? And it's very hard. And I think something that like is so contagious is just like every practice, like just being there for like the love of the game and just being with your teammates. And I think that's something I've been able to show really well. Like we were doing like a like in practice conditioning, like it wasn't conditioning, but like you were doing things that were like conditioning. And like I wasn't even in the drill because it was like a stick work drill, and I'm a goalie obviously, so like after I unpadded, like they were doing this drill where they had to run down and like run back up, and I jumped in and like literally did it with them without the ball, and like was cheering everyone on. And it's just like you just have to try to make the best of this situation right now. And I think like just energy is so contagious right now, because it's something like you could come to practice and be like, this sucks, but then like you see everyone else just like fully loving what they're doing and just like being immersed in the practice. And I think like that has helped so much, like keeping people motivated this year.
Well, I really appreciate it. You know, thank you all for just being candid and open about your experiences and how you've learned and grown through your experience. And I'm really excited for all of you to have a phenomenal rest of your senior year. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you.